From sharing a street with Abraham Lincoln to a town where the median home price is just $45,000, these are the 12 US towns begging people to buy a cheap home. And first, the RV capital of America, Elkhart, Indiana. Now, before you start picturing yourself living next to a bunch of retirees in motorhomes, hear me out. Elkhart was incorporated in 1858 and got its name from an island in the Elkhart River that was supposedly shaped like an elk's heart. Whether that's true or just some creative 19th century marketing, who knows? What I do know is this place has been churning out recreational vehicles like there's no tomorrow. Here's where it gets interesting. The median home price sits around $217,000. Now I know what you're thinking. That doesn't sound cheap. But stick with me because I spent way too much time on Zillow looking at Elkhart listings. And let me tell you, you can find some solid 3-bedroom homes for under $200,000. We're talking houses with actual yards, not just a balcony where you can barely fit a houseplant. But here's the first plot twist of our journey. Elkhart's got a problem. Their crime rate is 25% above the national average. That's not hide your kids, hide your wife territory, but it's enough to make you think twice about leaving your Amazon packages on the porch. The town's economy is tied to manufacturing, specifically the RV industry. However, there's a silver lining. People are fleeing Chicago to come here. Why would anyone trade deep dish pizza for whatever Indiana's famous for? Simple, affordability and jobs. Plus, they've got the Lerner Theater, which is fancier than it sounds, and they're close enough to South Bend that you can pretend you're sophisticated. The homes are sitting on the market for about 40 days. In real estate terms, that's like a clearance sale at Target. Everything must go. But Elkhart's just the appetizer. Wait until you see what's cooking in the Carolinas. 11. Welcome to Florence, South Carolina, not Italy, though both have seen better days. Florence was founded in the 1850s as a railroad junction, and honestly, it has been trying to recapture that glory ever since. The city was named after Florence Harley, the daughter of a railroad president. The median home price in this area hovers around $221,000. Now, I dove deep into Florence's Zillow listings, and boy, did I find some gems. 3-bedroom homes with front porches for under $150,000. Some even have those southern wraparound porches where you can sit and wave at neighbors while secretly judging their lawn care. But here's where Florence shows its true colors. The crime rate is 47% above the national average. That's not a typo. We're talking more than double the national rate. The economy here is about as diverse as a boy band from the early 2000s, mostly healthcare and retail. If you're not fixing people or selling them things, your options get pretty thin pretty fast. But wait, there's hope. Florence is seeing population growth of about 0.8% year over year. People are coming here from Charlotte, trading big city problems for small city prices. They've got the Florence Civic Center insert clip of Monster Tarkuk rallies in Florence Civic Center, which hosts everything from monster truck rallies to wedding receptions. Homes are lingering on the market for about 45 days, which in today's market is like finding a unicorn. Speaking of unicorns, our next stop has something even rarer: affordable housing near Chicago. Kankakee in Illinois. Located about an hour south of Chicago, this town is like that friend who lives close enough to hang out but far enough away that you don't have to deal with their drama daily. The median home price sits at around $153,000, which is so reasonable it almost feels suspicious. But the best part is that the total crime rate, including violent and property, is 2% below the national average. Finally, a place where you might not need to sleep with one eye open. I checked the Zillow listings, and you can snag a decent 2, 3, or 4-bedroom house for under $150,000. Some even come with basements, which in Illinois is basically a survival requirement. The problem? Limited high-wage job growth and infrastructure that's aging like milk in the sun. But hey, they've got Kankakee River State Park, so at least the scenery's nice while you contemplate your life choices. But if you think that's cheap, wait until you hear about a place where trains used to be the biggest excitement. 9. Danville, Virginia. Back in September 1903, the old 97 Express mail train was running late. The engineer, probably thinking time is money, decided to floor it. Well, turns out trains and high speeds don't mix well on old trestle bridges. The train jumped the track. There are a lot on Google. Plunged into the Dan River Valley, killing 9 people. More than 120 years later, they're still talking about that train wreck. That should tell you everything you need to know about the level of excitement this place sees regularly. However, here's what no one talks about. Danville's median home price of around $160,000. With a price-to-income ratio of 2.7, your mortgage payment might be lower than what most people spend on their car payment. I spent considerable time browsing Danville's Zillow listings, and let me tell you, there are some beautiful historic homes here. Victorian houses with original hardwood floors and enough character to make HGTV jealous. Some of these places are going for under $120,000, which is less than what people pay for a Cybertruck these days. The crime rate is 22% above the national average. Not great, but compared to some places we'll visit later, it's practically safe. However, the real problem is the shrinking population. They're losing about 0.5% of their people every year, which means your neighbors might disappear. The economy took a beating when manufacturing declined, but they're trying to pivot. I found some articles about programs encouraging remote workers to move in, though those programs are harder to track down than a decent parking spot at the mall during the Christmas shopping season. But here's what's working in Danville's favor. They're attracting retirees and families from North Carolina who want small town charm without small town prices. Well, smaller town prices. They've got the Danville Museum and enough historical markers to make you feel educated. But if you think a train wreck is dramatic, wait until you see what happened to our next town's economy. Cumberland, Maryland, sits tucked away in the Appalachian Mountains. Cumberland was a major transportation hub back when canals and railroads were the height of technology. Now it's struggling to figure out what comes after the transportation revolution passed it by. The median home price here is around $151,000 with a price-to-income ratio of 2.5. However, what caught my attention while browsing Cumberland's Zillow listings wasn't just the prices, but also the scenery insert images of Cumberland's scenery. These houses come with mountain views that would cost you 7 figures in Colorado. But there's always a catch, right? The crime rate is 116% above the national average. Population is declining by about 1% per year. It's like watching a slow motion evacuation where everyone's too polite to run. The job opportunities are about as limited. Unless you're into healthcare, education, or can work remotely, you might find yourself getting very familiar with the scenery because you'll have plenty of time to look at it. Still, Cumberland is attracting some buyers from the DC area. They're coming for the outdoor lifestyle and the fact that $127,000 can actually buy you a house. The mountain setting means you'll have plenty of hiking trails to explore while you figure out what to do with your life. Speaking of figuring out what to do with your life, our next stop has been trying to do that for decades. 7. Lima, Ohio, not Peru, though both places have seen their share of economic ups and downs. This town peaked in the 80s and is still trying to figure out what happened. The median home price is around $145,000. I checked out Lima's Zillow listings, and you can find solid homes for under $100,000. We're talking 3-bedroom houses with garages and yards, where you could actually throw a barbecue without your guests having to stand in the street. The catch: crime rate is 83% above than national average, while unemployment hovers around 5.5%. That's real estate speak for please, someone, anyone, buy these houses. However, they've got 4 Park, which is nice if you're into parks. But if you think Lima's struggling, wait until you see what decades of economic decline can do to a place. 6. Saginaw, Michigan, a city that sounds like it should be the name of a Native American chief, and frankly, he'd probably be disappointed with what happened to his namesake. Saginaw was incorporated in 1857 and used to be a major lumber town. When the trees ran out, they pivoted to manufacturing. When manufacturing declined, well, that's where things get interesting. The median home price here is around $131,000 with a price-to-income ratio of 2.4. That's, I can afford a house while working at Target money. And before you scoff, working at Target while owning your own home is living the American dream. I spent way too much time scrolling through Saginaw's Zillow listings, and honestly, some of these houses are bigger than entire apartments in major cities. 3-bedroom homes with full basements, garages, and yards for under $90,000. That's less than what some people spend on their wedding. The crime rate is 39% above the national average. The population is declining by about 1% per year, which means your neighbor today might move to a place with better job prospects and lower crime rates tomorrow. But wait, there's a silver lining. Saginaw is drawing some buyers from Detroit. When Detroit residents are looking at your city as a step up, that's either a really good sign or a really concerning commentary on Detroit. I'm leaning toward the latter. Homes are lingering on the market for about 55 days, which gives you plenty of time to research the neighborhood crime statistics and invest in a really good security system. But now that we've made it to our top 5, I suggest you pay extra attention because you're either getting a really good deal or not. Starting with a city that takes urban challenges to a whole new level. Decatur, Illinois, the city that Abraham Lincoln called home before he became famous enough to have better options. This place sits just east of Springfield, and honestly, it's been coasting on that Lincoln connection longer than a reality TV star's 15 minutes of fame. Lincoln gave a political speech here in 1830, back when Decatur was full of promise and potential. These days, it's full of, well, let's just say things have changed. The median home price in Decatur hovers around $102,000. That is less than what some people spend on a wedding. I dove deep into Decatur's Zillow listings, and honestly, it's like shopping at a clearance rack where everything is 80% off for reasons you're afraid to ask about. You can find 3-bedroom homes for under $80,000. The crime rate is 14% above the national average, and the economy used to revolve around agriculture and manufacturing. Now it revolves around hoping someone, anyone, will move here and spend money. They're attracting some buyers from Chicago who want to trade big city problems for small city prices. And honestly, depending on which Chicago neighborhood you're escaping from, that might be a fair trade. They have Lake Decatur, which provides scenic views while you contemplate your life choices. The job growth is slow, but hey, at least the houses are cheap. Speaking of cheap houses and questionable life choices, our next destination takes both to an extreme. Pine Bluff, Arkansas, where dreams go to hibernate. With a median home price around $76,000 and a price-to-income ratio of 2.2, this place is practically giving houses away. I browsed their Zillow listings and found homes that cost less than a decent used BMW. However, the crime rate is 187% above the national average. Unemployment sits at 6%, and the population is shrinking by 1.5% annually. Pine Bluff is attracting exactly who you'd expect, people who prioritize cheapness above literally everything else. The housing market here is like a clearance sale at a store that's going out of business. Everything's cheap, but you have to ask yourself why. But if you think Pine Bluff sounds rough, our next city makes it look like a luxury resort. Youngstown, Ohio. This place used to be Steeltown, USA, back when Made in America actually meant something and people could support a family working in manufacturing. Youngstown was incorporated in 1867 and named after John Young, who probably never imagined his name would become synonymous with urban decay and economic despair. The Rust Belt disintegrated, crumbled, and left behind a landscape that looks like someone set off an economic neutron bomb. But hey, at least the houses are cheap. The median home price in Youngstown sits at around $67,000 with a price-to-income ratio of 2.1. I spent considerable time browsing Youngstown's Zillow listings, and it's like scrolling through the real estate equivalent of a zombie apocalypse movie. You can find entire neighborhoods of homes for under $60,000. Some of these places are bigger than most people's entire apartments, with yards, basements, and enough space to start your own compound. The crime rate is 27% above the national average, and homes are sitting on the market for about 60 days. The population is stable, but only because the people leaving are being replaced by people who have run out of other options. But here's what's keeping Youngstown from being a complete write-off. It's attracting buyers who want more house for their money. They've got Youngstown State University, which provides some economic stability and cultural activities. Mill Creek Park, insert images of park, is genuinely beautiful and offers 2,600 acres of hiking trails, gardens, and scenic drives. For buyers who can work remotely or are retired, Youngstown offers something most places can't: a lot of house for very little money in a city that's trying really hard to reinvent itself. But if you think Youngstown is desperate for residents, our next city makes it look positively selective. Rockford, Illinois, the city that's close enough to Chicago to feel the disappointment but far enough away to avoid the rent prices. Rockford sits about 90 miles northwest of Chicago. It was incorporated in 1852 and was named for the shallow ford across the Rock River. These days, people are taking a different kind of gamble, crossing over to live here. The median home price in Rockford hovers around $172,000 with a price-to-income ratio of 2.5. While exploring Rockford's Zillow listings, I found surprisingly decent homes. 3-bedroom houses with actual yards for under $100,000. However, the crime rate is 29% above the national average, and the economy here is struggling with the same manufacturing decline that's hit most of the Midwest. Unemployment sits around 5.5%, and finding a job that pays more can be a challenge. But here's what's keeping Rockford on the map. It's experiencing population growth of about 0.5% per year, which might not sound like much, but in today's economic climate, any growth is like finding money in your old jacket pocket. They're attracting Chicago commuters who are tired of paying $2,500 for a studio. Rockford's got some legitimate amenities too. The Rockford City market insert image of Farmers Market is a bustling farmers market that actually makes you feel like you're living in a community. And then there's the Anderson Japanese Gardens. Insert images of garden. Yes, you read that right. Japanese gardens in Illinois, which are genuinely beautiful and internationally recognized. Homes are lingering on the market for about 50 days, which gives you plenty of time to research the neighborhood and figure out if you're making a smart financial move or just trading one set of problems for another. The manufacturing sector is still hanging on, providing some job opportunities for people who don't mind getting their hands dirty. But if you think Rockford is desperate for new residents, wait until you see our #1 pick, a place so eager for people, they'd probably throw you a parade just for showing up. Johnstown, Pennsylvania is the undisputed champion of cheap housing and economic desperation, where houses cost less than most people's annual car insurance. Welcome to the town that's been trying to recover from disasters, both natural and economic, for over a century. Johnstown was established in 1791 by Joseph Johns, and honestly, Joe probably wouldn't recognize the place today. This city has been through 3 major floods, the collapse of the steel industry, and an economic decline so severe it makes other Rust Belt cities look like Silicon Valley. The median home price sits at $111,000. However, I spent hours scrolling through Johnstown's Zillow listings, and it's like shopping in an alternate universe where real estate prices are still stuck in 1985. You can find 3-bedroom homes with basements, garages, and actual yards for under $40,000. Some of these places just need cosmetic work, new paint, updated fixtures, maybe some elbow grease and determination. Others need more work, but even those are priced like clearance items. What makes Johnstown's situation even more surreal is that the crime rate is 10% below the national average. This is a place where you can buy a house for the price of a Honda Civic and sleep peacefully at night. So what's the catch? Because there's always a catch, right? The catch is economic reality hitting harder than a Pennsylvania winter. Unemployment hovers around 6%, the population is declining by 2% per year, and homes are sitting on the market for about 65 days, which in today's market is like watching paint dry in slow motion. Johnstown's economy never recovered from the collapse of the steel industry. When Bethlehem Steel closed, it took the city's economic heart with it. What's left is a place with beautiful mountain scenery, historic architecture, and the economic prospects of a ghost town. However, it's attracting retirees and buyers from Pittsburgh who see opportunity where others see decline. These are people who remember when $45,000 could buy you a decent car, not an entire house. They're coming for the Johnstown Flood Museum, the historic downtown, and the chance to own a piece of American industrial history for pennies on the dollar. For remote workers, retirees, or anyone who doesn't need to rely on the local job market, Johnstown represents something rare in today's America: genuine affordability. But let's be real, Johnstown isn't for everyone. This is a place for pioneers, for people who see opportunity in decline, for those who value affordability over amenities. So there you have it, 12 towns that are rolling out the red carpet for anyone willing to take a chance on affordable home ownership. From Elkhart's RV-driven economy to Johnstown's flood tax-funded desperation, these places offer houses you can actually afford. But here's what I've learned diving deep into these markets. Cheap housing always comes with a story. Sometimes it's economic decline, sometimes it's population loss, sometimes it's crime rates that make you reconsider your life choices, but sometimes, just sometimes, it's opportunity disguised as desperation. The key is knowing what you're getting into. Do your research, visit these places, talk to locals, and figure out if you're buying into a community with potential or just buying problems at a discount. Because at the end of the day, the American dream of home ownership is still alive. It's just moved to places you might not have considered. The question is, are you brave enough to find it? But wait, we've shown you where opportunity lives, but what about the places that will destroy your financial future? Our next video reveals the top 12 worst cities to buy a home in Nevada for 2025. Click to learn more.